discussion. My name is Varsha, and I will be hosting this week's book review on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Before we proceed with the show, make sure to subscribe for some more amazing content and press the bell icon for notifications. To start this meeting, let's all introduce ourselves. So my name is Varsha.
My name is Jayant, and I'm 10 years old.
My name is Shreeman, and I'm 9 years old. And
My name is Arush, and I am in 3rd grade.
Gaurav, go ahead.
My name is Gaurav, and I'm going to 5th grade.
Dhruv.
My name is Dhruv. I'm 10 years old, and I'm going into 5th grade.
Okay.
Is about Willy Wonka, who is this major player in the candy world, and he makes a lot of world famous candy. And the story is introduced by Charlie, who is very poor, who loves Willy Wonka's candy creations, and Willy Wonka announces that he is letting 5 children take a tour of his giant candy making castle almost, and Charlie wins one of these tickets. So Charlie along with 4 other kids and their parents all take a tour of the chocolate factory, and one by one each of the kids have run into some problem, and then they are sent home, or they have to leave. It all ends with Willy Wonka and Charlie's grandfather, where Charlie is the last kid left, and Willy Wonka announces that he is going to give his candy empire over to Charlie because Charlie was a great student. So Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a book that deals with a lot of issues like greediness and just being a good kid, along with some of the troubles that Willy Wonka himself had as he was growing up and as he became a candy maker. Now that we're done with the summarization, we can start with the questions. So for you guys, what do you think each of the characters' flaws were? For all 5 kids, what do you think were some of their issues?
So for the first guy, whose name is Augustus and his last name is Gloop, he's like very greedy and he eats like so much chocolate, and that's how he got the golden ticket. And Verusa, she's like very spoiled. Like she asks her parents for any single thing she wants, and her parents like have to get it. And yeah, and just one fact is her dad is an owner of a company. And then for Violet, she like earned so much record, which is like not her like flaws, but she's so sassy, and she's always like she's also kind of mean to some people, but she also has earned us so much records. And for like the next kid, he's like this hacker, and he's like so addicted to like video games, and he also hates chocolate. Yeah. And for Charlie, well, he's just like normal.
Okay, next, Dhruv can go. Or sorry, Vihan, you can go.
Scoop is a little too greedy and he eats too much chocolate. And Veruca's Salt is so spoiled, her parents give her anything she wants. Mike TV has is addicted to television too much. Violet Beauregard, I think that's her name. She like chews gum too much, and she's also a little too competitive. And Charlie is good because he's not greedy or spoiled.
Okay, next. Jayanth, you can go.
So first there's Augustus Gloop, and he like overeats too much, and like his mother and father give him any food he wanted, and he was really greedy. And Mr. Wonka, and he drank out of Mr. Wonka's, chocolate river. And then there was Violet, and she had a habit of chewing gum like too much, and like she once chewed a single piece of gum for 3 months straight. And Veruca is like, she's very spoiled and rotten, and her dad gives her anything she wants, and all she has to do is ask for it. And Mr. Wonka didn't like her because she was very spoiled. And then there was Mike TV, and he spends all his day watching TV. And his mother said that she didn't even use the dining table to eat. And she brings his food straight to him, and while he is watching TV. And Charlie, he is unlike the other kids. He is very kind and compassionate, and he, he doesn't. He's not greedy or he's not spoiled. His family's poor, and he like loves Wonka bars, and that's why he got the chocolate factory at the end.
Next, Gaurav can go, and then Arish.
So August Gloop, he loved to eat a lot. So like he ate so much chocolates in like a lot of days, and he got the golden ticket. And then Violet was very like greedy, greedy. And then she like whatever she wanted, or she just had to ask her dad, and she was like very like rude about it, and she was like, yeah. And then Veruca chewed gum. Oh no, that was Violet, right?
Yeah.
And then, so Violet chewed gum a lot, and she chewed gum for like 3 months straight, and she would like stop chewing gum or like eating chocolate or something or stop chewing gum for dinner, and then she'd go again, and then she switched to chocolate bars, and then Veruca was the one that was greedy and everything, and then Mike T was just addicted to TV, and Charlie was like not very. He was nice, and he was like not greedy because his family's like poor. So he's like, and then since he wanted chocolate bars, like because his family didn't afford enough, so he would love chocolate bars.
Okay, and Arush.
So Augustus Gloop, he eats too much food. He thinks he can eat anything he wants because his parents give him anything he wants, so he's greedy. And Veruca Salt, she thinks she can have anything she wants because she's spoiled by her parents. And Violet Beauregard thinks she's better than anyone and she can do anything she wants. And Mike TV thinks is addicted to television too much. And Charlie, he doesn't really have a flaw, and he's very nice and kind. He doesn't do anything that's not good for you.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with all of your answers. So for the next question, it's what role does Grandpa Joe play in Charlie's life? And as a reminder, Grandpa Joe worked at Willy Wonka's and then got fired when Willy Wonka fired everyone. But Grandpa Joe wasn't really mad about it. He actually still really admires Willy Wonka. So just keep that in mind. Vihan, you can go.
So Grandpa Joe's role of in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is he knows a lot about the factory and he tells Charlie all the stories and about Prince Pondicherry and about the chocolate factory when he got fired.
Okay, next, Shimon, you can go.
So Grandpa Joe, what role he plays in Charlie's life is he just talks to Charlie and talks about the past and how he used to work in the Willy Wonka's factory and how he did his life. And he also encourages Charlie when they said you need to get that golden ticket, he made Charlie get more confident. Yeah.
Jayanth, you can go.
Grandpa Joe, he was like Charlie's mentor, kind of. He helped him, like he gave him hope that he would win a golden ticket, and he did. And he accompanied him to the chocolate factory, and he was like the most active out of the 4 grandparents. And he used to work at the factory, and even though Mr. Wonka had to fire him, he still talks about him and admires him a lot.
Next can be Arush, then Dhruv.
So, Grandpa Joe plays a big role in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by telling Charlie all about the chocolate factory and still not being mad or mean to Mr. Wonka even though he fired Grandpa Joe. And also he accompanied Charlie through the factory.
Okay, Dhruv, and then
So Grandpa Joe is basically like the main supporter, like for him, like he supported him through the thing, and he encouraged him to get the golden ticket, and he stayed with him during the entire factory tour. So he was a pretty big role in the book and the movie.
Okay. So for Dhruv, what made him a pretty important role? Because he lived with both of his parents and all of his grandparents. So why did they choose Grandpa Joe over his mom or his dad or any of his other grandparents? What made Grandpa Joe
he kind of knew Willy Wonka, so it would be good for him to go. And also another reason he was a big role is like if he had encouraged him to like say and said, "Good, still go get that golden ticket," Charlie like was actually looking for it after he left. But otherwise, he wouldn't probably have been like looking on the like when he found the money, like to buy the other chocolate bar, which has the golden ticket in it.
That makes a lot of sense. I think lastly, Gaurav had to go.
So Grandpa Joe was a big role because for Charlie, he was the one that was being more positive than Grandpa George, because Grandpa George was saying like being negative and saying there's only 5 in the world and he's probably not going to find it. And Grandpa Joe, the reason he picked Grandpa Joe probably is because Grandpa Joe was the one that supported him most out of all of his other grandparents and his parents too.
Okay, so why do you think Grandpa Joe was so like more encouraging than his parents?
I think Grandpa Joe was more encouraging because he wanted Charlie to have something that maybe he couldn't have when he was young.
Okay, Arush, you can go.
I have something to add to Gaurav. So also the reason why they could say Grandpa Joe would go because Grandpa Joe had worked in Willy Wonka's factory, so it makes sense if Grandpa Joe could go, so he could meet Willy Wonka again. And Grandpa Joe was probably the most excited person out of the whole family, except for Charlie, when Charlie got the first chocolate when he got on his birthday.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else left to say, or should I move to the next question? Okay, so I'm going to go to the next question. The next question is, how is Willy Wonka described throughout the book? Like, what is he described as at the beginning of the book and versus what he is described as at the end of the book? Let's start with Janath.
So, like at first glance, Willy Wonka, he's described by Uncle Joe as like a secretive and mysterious person, but like during the tour, later on we find out he's very active, and during the tour, he was kind of mean by ignoring the children's questions and being a little careless, and but at the end he was very generous by giving Charlie his fortune and his factory.
Okay, so do you think that he was like, what do you think Willy Wonka kind of went through? Like, why do you think he was mean? Let's like start with that.
Maybe because of his childhood.
Just explain, like, what
Yeah, because his dad didn't support him to be a chocolate maker.
Right. Okay, anyone else have thoughts on that, or just to answer the question? Shriman, you can go, and then Vahan.
So how Willy Wonka described the movie or the book? So first he's like this awesome magician, chocolate maker guy, and he's very good at making chocolates. And like I said already, he's kind of mean, and he's also kind of like he just like kind of makes people sometimes angry, and yeah, and but then after everyone left, he was actually kind of different, like feeling different when Charlie was the only one there. He was like, "You won," and but like with if other people there, he would have just been like, "You won." So yeah, he was actually kind of nicer when Charlie was only there.
Okay, so Arush, you can go.
So, Willy Wonka is described throughout the book. So, in the beginning, Grandpa Joe says his factory and him is very mysterious, and when they first meet Willy Wonka, he's very excited and cheerful, but then he starts getting a little mean and careless to the kids who he thinks are not like worthy for the factory. But he gets very excited again when he realizes Charlie is the only one left to give the factory to.
Okay, yeah. Now Vihan, you can go.
So, I think Willy Wonka at the start is described as mysterious because Charlie doesn't know a lot about him yet. But and on the tour, Willy Wonka just starts to get a little mean. But at the end of the tour, when Charlie gets the factory, that's when he turns nice.
Okay, next, Jayanth.
I have something to add on to mine. At the end, he might have been a little mean too because he told Charlie that his family couldn't come with him.
So, like, why do you think he said no family? Do you think that there was a reason for
Also
that?
because of his childhood. He doesn't really care about Willy Wonka doesn't really care about his family because he doesn't really like have one. So that's probably why.
Okay. Next, Drew, you can go.
So, like at the start of the book, Willy Wonka, he was just like a mystery, like no one knew, and like they didn't know how there was chocolate coming and all. But then when the tour started, he was like a bit nice, but then he started becoming kind of rude. Like for example, he kind of like when Veruca said her name, he said it was some sort of like wart disease or something. But then at the end of the tour, he was like really nice and gave Charlie the factory. But then he was mean for like a second, like talking about how his family couldn't come. Then he became nice again.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to add? Shriman, you can go.
So yeah, like in the first part of the tour, when Veruca or that other girl said their name, he's like, I don't care. I think it's Violet. He's like, I don't care. He just Violet just wasn't doing anything. He was just saying her name, but he was like, I don't care. So yeah, that was kind of mean.
Okay. Gaurav, you can go.
At the beginning, for Uncle Joe thought of Willy Wonka was like an inspiring, like star, like and like in the middle of the story, like when he was taking the tour, he started getting like rude because they started like not listening. Like August Gloop, like was continuously drinking from like the river of chocolate, and then at the end when Charlie won, like he picked because Charlie won for like the chocolate factory. Like he started being more nice because like Charlie was like loyal and stuff. So yeah, like after all the kids left.
Right. So I think so. Do you guys all agree that he got nicer? He was just nicer to Charlie because Charlie wasn't like spoiled or greedy like the rest of the other kids. Right. Okay. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we'll move on to the next question. So why do you think Willy Wonka hired Oompa Loompas instead of like people again? Arush, you can go.
So I think Willy Wonka hired Oompa Loompas and not people because people won't actually steal recipes for other candy or chocolate makers like it happened before Willy Wonka shut down and reopened. And in the Oompa Loompas, they're like they don't really so when Augustus Gloop was drinking from the river of chocolate, Willy Wonka had said that it shouldn't be touched by human hands. So it gave me this feeling that it so it won't really spoil the taste a bit if a human touches it, and if a Oompa Loompa touches it, which is not really a human, then it won't really spoil the taste. So that like maybe an Oompa Loompa is not able to get a cold, so it might not give sickness or anything like that to people around the world.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So next, okay. So this is for everyone to think about. Remember that he like Arish said, he did fire all of his employees. Previously, like he fired Grandpa Joe because they were like telling all of his candy secrets to everyone else. So think about that. Jayanth, you can go, and then Dhruv.
I think that Willy Wonka hired the Oompa Loompas because his like competitors in the candy industry were maybe they were planting in spies like and then to like give him like candy recipes. So he fired all the Oompa Loompas. The humans, and got Oompa Loompas, and like they were very knowledgeable and they were very wise. And Mr. Wonka, he only needed to pay them in chocolate.
Okay. I think I said Dhruv, you can go now.
So at the start, Willy Wonka fired all of his employees because there were so many spies giving all of his secrets away to like other candy makers, which made him really mad. So he decided to fire them all and replace them with Oompa Loompas, which he was sure no other candy maker had. So they would all be like grouped up and loyal to him.
Right. Yeah. Who else hasn't gone? I think Shriman and Vihan. Shriman, you can go, then Vihan. You're on mute, Shriman.
So I think why Willy Wonka didn't fired the people and put Oompa Loompas because the people, some employees, to other competitors, they told the secret recipes to the other competitors, which made the competitors make the recipe that Willy Wonka made. But the Oompa Loompas, they don't even know how to talk except for the songs. They don't know how to even talk. So they can't even talk and say how to make that recipe, and they also won't get out of Willy Wonka's factory.
Yeah, so that I think Vihan, you can go, and then I'll summarize everyone's answers.
So, I think why he hired Oompa Loompas is because um Oompa Loompas will not give the secret away to other candy makers, and but the other humans will give the secret to the spies will give the secret away to the candy makers.
All right. I want. Has anyone not gone? Okay, so if everyone has gone, just to summarize, do you guys think that the reason, like one of the main reasons why Willy Wonka hired the Oompa Loompas was because of loyalty? So he felt like the people that he hired previously were disloyal, and he hired Oompa Loompas because he like kind of knew for a fact that they'd be loyal. So what do you guys think about that? Okay. And then last question. So Willy Wonka got 5 different kids, and all 5 kids were pretty different. They all had their own problems that we went through, and they all had their own things that they were interested in. So what kind of person do you think Willy Wonka wanted to take over his company? Like what characteristics or what traits did he want? Arush, you can go, and then Jayant.
So I think Willy Wonka wanted someone who would try and he wouldn't, the person who would take over the company wouldn't go change what Mr. Willy Wonka did. So he won't change up a recipe to make the everlasting sucking thing or anything else, and they would try to do what Mr. Wonka wants them to do, which would be more like a kid. So that's why he chose 5 kids to try to see, and he would see who's not spoiled, not greedy, and someone who doesn't have any imagination, which all the other kids are, except for Charlie. So that's why he wanted Charlie to take over the factory.
Okay, so you think that Willy Wonka wanted someone to carry his legacy, like someone who will do everything the way Willy Wonka wanted to do, and make like a candy empire that Willy Wonka would be proud of. Okay, Jayant, you can go, and then Vahan, and then yeah.
So I think so. Willy Wonka wanted a kid to be to take over his company, and he specifically wanted a kid to run it because an adult would make chocolate a different way. Unlike the other kids, Charlie was like not directly disrespecting Mr. Wonka or like directly or disobeying his instructions, and Charlie did not do any of those. He was not greedy or spoiled, and that's why Mr. Wonka chose him to take over his factory.
Okay. Vihan, you can go.
So I think what person Mr. Wonka wanted to take over the factory was a person who wasn't spoiled, greedy, addicted to anything, or too competitive. And Charlie wasn't any of those things, so Willy Wonka chose him.
Right, that makes sense. Next, we can have Dhruv, Shriman, and then Gaurav go. Or Shriman, if you want to go first, you can go.
So why Willy Wonka chose kids to be there is because if there was an adult and if Willy want Wonka Boston adult, the adult would just be like stop, but the kids would just obey him. And
Okay, so my question to you, Shimon, is, the thing is the kids didn't obey him. Like they were, like Augustus was like drinking from the fountain, and like Violet chewed that gum when she wasn't supposed to. So what do you mean by obey him?
I mean like probably now we should know that probably they kind of don't get what you're saying.
Okay, so what I was trying to say is you said that Willy Wonka chose a child because he was he wanted someone who would obey him, and that makes sense. Charlie was a very obedient kid. But what do you think? What would have? Sorry, my question I guess is what would have happened if, like, why do you think, like, what characteristics of a child do you think that Willy Wonka wanted, like, alongside with obedience, like what other things?
He wanted good childs, like childs which are not spoiled, childs which are not mean. Like Veruca, she was sassy, like not like Veruca and Violet, like they were mean, and also not like people who are just like disobeying. Like what happened with Violet is when Willy Wonka said, "No, don't chew that gum," she was like, "I'm not scared of anything." I knew she just put it in her mouth. So she wants what Willy Wonka wants the opposite of that. People who do what do what do what Willy Wonka says them to do.
Okay, makes sense. Dhruv, you can go, and then Gaurav.
I think like one reason I think he might have like wanted kids to take over is because like an adult they could like they'd have less time to kind of take on the like legacy and choose people. They'd have like more pressure on them to choose someone again if they wanted to. But a kid, if they are chosen from the start, they could carry it on for a long time and have a lot of time to choose someone.
Who needs to go next? I think Drew has answered. Varsha, you're on mute.
Everyone has answered except for Gaurav.
Can you re-ask the question?
The question was, what kind of characteristics do you think that Willy Wonka wanted in the kid that he was giving the factory to?
I think Willy Wonka wanted like an honest, like a nice, intelligent person to run his his history thing. I don't know what it's called, but like to run his like to run his thing still from him. So he wants someone to like run it, and he wants to like good person to for his so then won't go to waste stuff. And he wants someone that he can probably trust. They'll do it.
Does anyone have anything left to say about anything? So any last thoughts about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? If that is all, then we can conclude the meeting. Thank you guys all for participating. You guys did really great, and I loved all of your answers. And to those of you who are watching, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to stay subscribed to Renton Creations and stay tuned to this channel for much more content.